Today we're going to look at English. We're going to look at like one of the main needed skills in English language. I will explain to you later which kind of question you would need this for, but because none of you are taking your tests this year, like you're not taking your GCSEs this year, as always, I never really want to stress you out, let's say, and like focus too much on the exams. The main thing at the moment is to learn the skills that you will need later for the exams. So, as you probably saw from the Zoom link, today's lesson is on inferences, or the skill is inferring something. Does anybody know what it means to infer something? Or does anybody know what like an inference is? Can anybody tell me? It's like a prediction. It's yes, Ethan, that's not a bad guess. Yeah, it's sort of like it's sort of like a prediction. It's to make an educated guess based on the facts that you have. It's to make an assumption based on the details you already know. Is it a way to interpret something? Yes. It's to read between the lines and make an educated guess. Yes, that's really good. Well done. To guess what the writer wanted to say without saying it based on the settings and characters. Yes, it's what you interpret. Yes, well done, guys. Okay, that's really good. Well done. Good knowledge. Okay, this is so yes, exactly. So in English language, when you do either one of the papers that you're doing, or just in general, when you read a piece of fiction or you read a newspaper article or whatever, while obviously the writer is going to give you some kind of like some amount of information or some kind of information for you to learn from, there will always be like hidden messages or meanings and things that are also put into the text. And what we're going to look at today is how you improve on those skills. I'm going to read you guys two of the sources, like I take them from the exam paper that you need to learn. And I'm sorry, as always, that I sort of have to do some reading to you. I wish I didn't have to like read something to you in every lesson, but when we're going to go and do that, we're gonna do that today. Okay, sorry, I've got so many of you writing to me things and stuff in the chat that I can't keep up with it. Are we doing Life of Pi? No, Arisha, you'll be very pleased to know this is actually not from Life of Pi. So you'll be very pleased to know this. Okay, so what is paper 2 about? This is about this, okay? This is what it is, Mahal. Okay. Let me, I'm just thinking, when should I, hold on a second. I'm just thinking when I need to read this all to you exactly. I think it's fine. I think I'm going to read it to you from the screen. So I'm not going to read you the full text. What I will do very quickly is I'm going to give you the worksheet for today, which I have put the reading on. So if you guys want to read along with me, you can. It's in here. You should be able to see this. Let me just check that you've definitely got access to it. Okay. Okay. All right, so tell me in a second, can everybody see this? Okay, so I'm going to come back and answer other questions in a second. Guys, I want to focus on this for now, otherwise we'll be talking all night long, so I'm just going to carry on with this. So as you guys told me earlier, an inference in English is when you make a smart guess based on two things. Firstly, the clues in the text that you've been given. So the things that the writers say about something. And then also your own knowledge. So what you may or may not already know about the subject matter. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter too much if you have no context for what you're reading. So when you come to do English language in GCSE, you're going to read two texts that, very like paper one, you have no context of. So in English literature, you're reading all those texts now because when you come to do the exam, you're expected to know everything about those texts by the time you come to year 11. But for us in language, you don't need to worry about that kind of thing. So, for example, when it comes to an inference, then, so here's an example of it. She walked into the kitchen and slammed the cupboard. The inference that we get from this is that the woman is probably angry or frustrated. We don't know this. We can't be sure of it, but we can guess it from her action. If you remember, a while ago, we talked about connotations of words. Does anybody remember what a connotation is? What does it mean when a word connotes something? Very good, Arisha. Yes, exactly. Perfect. It's the word that it's the sorry, you've all written so many things again already. It's the idea or the image that the word gives to that brings to your mind. Okay. So like the ideas that a particular word bring to our mind. So for in this case, the word slammed never implies that somebody is peaceful or calm. Like effectively, the word literally just means like closing a door. But what it implies to us is the way that it's done is that it's done in an angry way. Like a serpent connotes betrayal. Exactly. Well done. Really good. Okay. So the reason that inferences are important is not just because you need to know them so that you can be good at English language. Also, they help you understand things like writer's message and notice things that are not said directly. This is quite important because obviously you're when you read something, it's not going to be exclusively speech or exclusively somebody's internal thoughts. You're also going to have to pick up things from like the description of their body language, the description of their actions, the things that other people say to them and the way that they react to them. And all of these things are contribute to the way that you infer certain information. For those of you, quite a few of you said already that it's like reading between the lines. That is literally exactly what an inference is. So well done. That's exactly what that means. To succeed in your English exams and to become a better reader is also another reason why inferring something is important, because it's all about like the way that you are able to pick up like the hidden messages of things, like I said before, about like reading between the lines. Mihal, can your inference ever be marked wrong? I mean, I guess if you'd like really misinterpreted the text, then yes, I suppose, yes, if you'd interpreted that like one person was extremely happy when in fact they were really angry. But it's like, I think that you'd have to have completely misread the text to be able to get it totally wrong. We're going to do a lot of practice of this today, so don't worry. Okay, so where do we use inferences in English as in your GCSE? These are in paper 2, question 2, when you have to compare two texts. Has anybody done any of this already at school? Like, I know that you're a long way off from doing the actual exams, but like, has anybody done any of this already where you have to like sort of make comparisons and make inferences on things? Okay, some people are saying it about poems. Okay, and then it's kind of half and half. Some of you have done it already and some of you haven't. Okay, that's fine. If you haven't done it at all yet, please don't worry. It really doesn't matter. You can, this is when you're going to learn about it now. Is it part of comprehension? Yes, it is part of comprehension because you are comprehending a text and analyzing it. And you want to be able to say, like, from this, the reader can infer XYZ. But it's kind of a specific skill within comprehension, or analyzing. Okay, so obviously, as I said, you're going to use this particularly for paper 2, question 2, but then you're also going to use it in your novels and your poems when you're reading nonfiction, whatever. Also, whenever the writer suggests an idea or something without saying it particularly clearly, that's when you're also inferring something. Okay, so let's have a little practice in real life. Your friend texts you and says, sorry, traffic is awful today. They did not tell you that they're going to be late, but you can infer this quite easily because by them saying sorry, it means that they're going to let you down. And we infer, because the word traffic connotes being late, being frustrated, not being on time. We also can infer that they feel bad about it, because the word sorry connotes feeling bad about something or needing to apologize about something. So you see that inferring is not really that difficult. It's just looking at what the words mean and what kind of impression they give to you, and then from there explaining why you have understood a certain thing. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little sample from source A that we're looking at as part of our paper 2 that we're going to be looking at over the next couple of weeks. I'm just thinking about the best way to do this is whether I should. I'm going to read you just the beginning bit of this first. I don't think there's any necessity today to read the whole source, because I know it takes a little while. So I probably will do that for another question, or maybe later if we need it. Okay, the question that you would be asked for this is you need to compare the different ways that each writer feels about trains. So don't worry, I'm not going to get you to do this today. It's not important. But basically what you will be asked to do in your language exam is you'll have source A and source B, and then you will have a comparison question related to whatever it is that they're talking about. Now, in this past paper, both of the sources are about train journeys, because that's the kind of main theme of the paper. So the question will be something like, read source A and B, compare the ways each writer feels about trains or train journeys. So it's super simple. And for today, that's all I want you to think about. Think about the way that each writer feels about the train that they're on. Just a note that when you come to do this, you will have source A, which is always from a 20th century text. Or you will have, and then you will have source B, which comes from a 19th century text. They sometimes flip them around. Mostly I tend to see the modern one first, and then the older text is source B, so the 19th century one. Yes, and you're right. Sorry, Hira, yes, you're correct. Both sources will always be on a similar topic. Yeah, because they want you to analyze the similarities or the differences about something. So yeah, you won't have like one random subject and then another random subject. They'll always be on something. Like recently, there was another one a couple of years ago that was about homework and like school, and why, like, there was a person writing a newspaper article from a few years ago about helping his son with homework. And then the 19th century novel, the 19th century bit was about a little boy who was at a boarding school in the Victorian era. Why do they do this? They do this because they want you, they're actually testing your ability to analyze different languages, like different types of language. So they want to see that you can analyze texts that were written in almost a very different form of English. So for all of you that are doing the 19th century novel or doing Shakespeare, you know that English has changed over many years and continues to evolve and develop. And so if they were to give you just two modern texts, you're not really analyzing anything old. So they want to be able to see that you can read lots of things and understand it all. Did trains exist in the 19th century? Yes, but they were very new. Okay, and that's the last question I'm going to do now, because I want to carry on with this. So, okay, I'm going to read you this beginning part of source A. This is not the full source. It's just it's a short bit from the beginning. I want you guys to tell me as I'm reading, what do we know about this writer? So I don't want you really to tell me anything explicit information. So explicit information is information that is directly said in the text. So I don't want you to tell me, we know that he wandered along the train to his compartment. What I want you to tell me are the things that you can infer. So that's implicit information. So when something is implicit, it is information that is told to us by other means, or that we infer from the text. Okay, so ask yourself, what do you know? Then tell me what the clues are, and what can we infer about how the writer felt at this moment. So does he like the train or does he not like the train? So source A is an extract from a travel book in which Peter Fleming describes his train journey on the Trans-Siberian Railway in 1933. The journey is over 9,000 kilometers and takes more than a week to complete. And now the journey was almost over. There is no more luxurious sensation than what may be described as the end of term feeling. I felt very content. After tomorrow, there would be no more trips to the dining car, no more of that black bread, inconsistency and flavor suggesting rancid peat, no more of that equally earthy tea, no more of a monk's existence, no more days entirely blank of action. It was true that I did not know what I was going to do, that I had nothing very specific to look forward to, but I knew what I was going to stop doing, and that for the moment was enough. I wandered along the train to my compartment, undressed, and got into my bed. As I did so, I noticed for the first time that the number on my berth was 13. For a long time, I could not sleep, but eventually I drifted off. Okay, so what do we know? A berth in this case is like his bed, like the kind of area of the bed where he's on a sleeper train. So if you've ever seen, like, if you've ever been on a sleeper train or you've ever seen a picture of a sleeper train, they kind of have like a sort of dip down where the bed is. Yeah, it's sort of like bunk beds. Yeah. Okay. So what do we know about the way that the writer feels? So I'm going to read out a few of the things that you were telling me. So the train journey is his last memory of his misery, as suggested by how he described what had happened. Yeah, and Kit, good, but you need to say what has happened here. So we know that the writer is happy about the train journey ending. He was unlucky. He didn't enjoy his time in the train. He wasn't prepared and he didn't have a plan. Yeah, we can infer that the writer is relieved about ending his journey, as the repetition of the word no more states that he is content about leaving his time in the train. Good. It's also the fact that when he's describing no more, he's describing no more of stuff that doesn't sound very nice. So good, well done. He didn't like the food, no more of the black bread. He feels unlucky because 13 is potentially an unlucky number. Very good. We know that the writer is happy about the train journey ending. He was unlucky. He didn't enjoy his time. Okay, yeah. He believed in supernatural powers because he did not sleep after seeing 13. Yeah, potentially. I don't know if you can say that. I don't know if you can infer that he believes in supernatural powers. I think that might be pulling a little like that's a bit too much. You don't have evidence that he believes in supernatural powers, but he feels uncomfortable for sure. He doesn't like the experience. He's happy to leave as the conditions on the train were horrible and unkept. Okay, so what specific information do you know? We said one of the things was the repetition of no more. What else? What other quotations give us the impression that he doesn't like being on the train? He thought that it was boring as he compares it to a monk's existence without attachment to life due to pleasure or enjoyment. Very good. Well done. Yeah. The enumeration emphasizes his unhappiness and relief for the train journey to end, describing it as the end of term feeling. Very good. I was hoping that one of you was going to say the end of term feeling. So how do you guys feel at the end of term? What do you usually feel at the end of term, specifically like at the end of the summer term when you're going on holiday for 6 weeks? Relieved, yeah, excited, very relieved. Exactly, exactly. So that's what you can infer, because that's what I mean when I say you're using your own knowledge. Like, you don't need to know anything about him. That's not your own knowledge. Your own knowledge is like, oh, I know what it feels like when it's the end of term. I feel amazing. I'm so excited. I can't wait to chill in my bed and go on holiday and hang out with my friends every day instead of having to go to school. Like, that's what you can infer because you have your own knowledge. Yes, precisely. So then, yes, also a few of you have said about the enumeration. Really good knowledge, by the way, of the anaphora and the enumeration. So the anaphora is the no more, no more, no more, the repetition of that. And then the enumeration is the listing of things he doesn't like. So I'm so impressed with you guys. Well done. Like, knowing enumeration in year 9 or 10 is fantastic. So yeah, he says like he doesn't like this black bread. We don't necessarily know that black bread is horrible, but it's kind of implied. We get the idea that he doesn't like it. Inconsistency in flavor suggesting rancid peat. Yes, one of you said already about what does rancid peat mean. So peat is like a type, I think, is like a type of grain. Um, Tends to be like a hop, like something that you tend to like make beer or malt out of. And rancid is like that disgusting taste of something that's gone bad, like a very bitter taste. Like if you ever drink orange juice or eat yogurt that has gone off and you get that disgusting like fizzy taste in your mouth, that's what rancid is. So he feels that the bread tastes like this, and so we know that he doesn't like it. Okay, well done everybody, really good. So we know that he overall we know that he feels like content and relieved at this particular moment. Okay, right, let me just check that I have here. Okay, so I'm now going to read you a different extract. This is from the 19th century. You will notice immediately that the type of language and the way that she expresses herself is quite different from the way that he did in Source A. It's the same kind of thing. It's about, I'll explain it anyway as I'm reading it, but like it's about a woman on a train journey. And I would like you guys to tell me the same thing again. So, what do we learn about the type of train she was on? What clues are here? Like, what clues do we have about the kind of train she's on? And also, what can we infer about how the writer felt? So, how does she feel about being on the train that she's on? So, um, source B is an extract from a letter written by Fanny Kemble to a friend about her first ride on a steam train in 1830 when she was 21. The steam engine had recently been invented by George Stephenson, and he was also on the ride. A normal sheet of writing paper is enough for love, but only a large sheet can contain my raptures about my railroad journey. And for now, I will give you an account of my excursion yesterday. A party of 16 persons was ushered into a courtyard where there stood a carriage of peculiar construction, prepared for our reception. It was a long-bodied vehicle with seats placed across it, back to back. The one we were in had 6 of these benches and was a sort of uncovered carriage. The carriage was set in motion by only a push and rolled with us down a slope into a tunnel, which forms the entrance to the railroad. Here we were introduced to the little train engine, which was to drag us along the rails. She, for they make these curious little fire horses all mares, consisted of a boiler, a stove, a small platform, a bench, and behind the bench a barrel containing enough water to prevent her being thirsty on our journey. She goes upon wheels, which are her feet, and are moved by bright steel legs called pistons, which are propelled by steam. The reins of this wonderful beast are a small steel handle which applies or withdraws the steam from its legs or pistons so that a child might manage it. The coals, which are its oats, were under the bench. This snorting little animal, which I felt rather inclined to pat, was then harnessed to our carriage. Mr. Stephenson and I took our seats on the bench of the train engine, and we set off at about 10 miles an hour. Okay, so how does this narrator feel about the train? Like, what do we know about the train that it's on? And how does she feel about it? She was amazed by the structure of the train. Yes, good. She liked the journey of the train. A large sheet can contain the rapture of my railway journeys. Very good. She refers to it as a bizarre animal. Okay. Ankit, if she refers to it as a bizarre animal, what does that tell us about how she feels about it or what type of train it is? We learned that the train that she was on was quite newly invented and a very basic build. She was amazed by the train. The writer feels excited about the journey, telling her friend, but only a large sheet of paper can contain my raptures. Yes, very good. She thinks that it's unusual. She likes the train. We can see this when she says the reins of this wonderful beast. This can be because it's a fairly new invention, which is awe and shocking her. Very good. Liam, I don't think you can say that this is a sleeper train, actually. I'm actually not convinced that this is a sleeper train because she says the one we had 6 benches and was an uncovered carriage. So she's not actually in a sleeper train for sure. She's just riding on it for a little bit of time. She's sitting in it. There's no beds or anything. She loves the structure of the train and she adores it. Really good. Okay. Um, okay. Uh, how else might we infer that she likes this train? I think it's very important to note that unlike the other writer, she actually doesn't tell us at all explicitly that she really likes the train. She just uses adjectives and other vocabulary to demonstrate that she loves it. She can't stop talking about it, yeah. She uses heavy vocabulary, yeah, so things like the word rapture, yeah, and then also we know she feels affectionate for it. She does use show not tell when she says things like this snorting little animal which I felt rather inclined to pat. Now obviously if you don't like an animal or like a dog or a cat, you're probably not going to pat it, but she's chosen to do that, so therefore yes, we can definitely infer that she likes this animal. Yeah, she calls it a wonderful beast as well. That's also true. Well done. Yeah. Okay. Excellent, guys. Well done. Um, so I'm going to give you some I'm going to give you some inferences then, one of which is from Life of Pi. Enjoy. Just in case you missed Life of Pi, I thought I'd throw one in. Um, can you guys have a look at these inferences here then, and tell me if you can work out which inference works with which quotation? So I prepared for my end. It was lovely and wonderful beyond all words. The engine had a defiant and naughty look. And then what are the possible inferences that we can work through from here? So the writer felt scared. The writer thought that the train had caused trouble. The writer was amazed and full of joy. Okay, so number one is A, yes, very good. And then number two is C, yeah, because lovely and wonderful are definitely synonyms of amazed and full. And then number three, obviously, is B. The engine had a defiant and naughty look. So the writer thought that the train had caused trouble. Okay, well done, everybody. I think pretty much all of you got this right. Yeah, well done. Okay, so these are some tips then. I've got quite a long worksheet for us today. And so you can notice that I'm not going to spend too long on my slides for the rest of the day. Let me just give you a quick tip then about how to make an inference, and then we're going to practice it for the last part of the lesson. So the first thing is to just find a detail or quote in the text and think about, what does this suggest? Like, what does this tell me? And then try to explain to yourself or write it down what this helps you to understand. For example, about the place, the person, or the experience. One or three ways that you can start your sentences when you're talking about inferences are by saying things like, this suggests that, or we can infer that, or this implies that, or this implies something. Okay. Does anybody have any questions before I move on? Does anyone have any questions about making inferences? Like, is there any part of this that doesn't make sense, or is this quite easy? Okay, seems like you're all okay. Why is it important to make an inference? It's important to make an inference because you're demonstrating that you understand more than is said about the text. So rather than just reading the superficial information, which is like, the writer is on a train, the writer eats black bread, the writer is in berth 13. That's obviously those are the facts of the text. But what you're inferring is like, are they unhappy? Are they uncomfortable? Do they want to get off the train? So you're basically increasing your marks because your examiner understands that you understand more than is just written there. Okay, so I'm going to give you some parts of source A and B that are not in the extracts I gave you, but are in like the later parts of the extract. Can you have a look at these quotes and tell me what you understand or what you infer from these sources? So the first one is, she had annoyed us in 100 little ways. Or source B, she had a perfect sense of security and not the slightest fear. What do you infer then about these writers' experiences? You get extra points if you make a comparison between these two things. So that's something else that's really important, is like, can you actually make a comparison between source A and source B? So what do they think about their respective trains? What is she? Oh, sorry. She here is, they're actually speaking about the trains here. This is something that I don't think is done anymore because it feels quite sexist and inappropriate. But in the past, like I would say probably up until quite recently, um, mechanical objects or like machines, like trains, boats, cars, often got referred to as she, like she's a beauty or she runs really smoothly or something like that. I feel like maybe people still do this, but it's like not very PC anymore, or okay to do it. But in those days, this would have been really normal. So people would always refer to a machine as a she. So okay, let me have a look. So um source A suggests that the author feels annoyed, shown by the word annoyed, which implies that the train was very annoying due to sounds or functions. Yes, I would say though, Abir, is that your name? Try not to use the word that's already in the text. So don't say like she feels annoyed because they say she feels annoyed, because that in itself is not an inference. That's something that's explicit in the text, like that's obviously there. So you haven't inferred the annoyance because the word is right there. um the first person seems quite irritated by the train and is not having a pleasant ride. From source A, I can tell that the writer was very disappointed about some parts of the train. um the use of hyperbole in A shows me that the writer is extremely peeved and vexed. I love this. Well done. However, in source B, they have a sense of tranquility. Very good. I would love it if you'd said a bit more why there, Fariza, but this is a good start. So say like, they have a sense of tranquility, describing not having the slightest fear or something like that. Um, let me see if source A implies that the train has disturbed them in many ways, and so they didn't have an amazing experience on it. However, the author in source B suggests that the train was very secure and the author wasn't fearful or scared. Excellent. Well done. Really good. Well done, guys. Source A, she feels frustrated due to multiple clauses. Source B, she feels happy as she believes it's completely safe. Well done. Okay. Okay, so key takeaways here then. Let's do some work after this. Inferences are basically like clues that you're given plus your own brain. So the things that you also know about the words, like end of term feeling or like black bread, whatever. Look for what's suggested, not just stated. So as I said, if the word is like I am angry, don't say I infer that the writer is angry, because you haven't inferred it. You haven't guessed that. You can see that obviously. So make sure that you're using different language, different vocabulary. Use short quotes and explain what they show. So pick out, again, this is just another way of analyzing language. So it's just like picking out a quotation and saying like, this person says that they feel annoyed. Therefore, I understand that they didn't enjoy the train journey and they can't wait to get off. Can we use inference as a way to improve our point? Yes, absolutely. Of course you can. Totally. Okay. This isn't really relevant for now, but next week we're going to do comparative questions. So we'll sort that out. Do that next week. Okay. Why is this like this? Hold on, okay, right. Let me give you the worksheet then, guys. I don't think it's really necessary for me to read you the whole sources. I think next week I probably will have to do that. What I would suggest to you, just as a quick tip here, is if you guys could read these two sources between now and next week's lesson, that would probably help you when we come to look at the comparative question for next week. I obviously will read you both of the sources in the lesson, but I think it would be useful if you could read it yourself first. Okay, so let's have a look here. I'm not going to give you hold on, I'm just looking at my exercises and now I'm thinking that I might need to read this to you. I think I'm actually going to have to read this to you now, guys. I'm so sorry because I realized that I made all the exercises based on the full thing. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do that. Okay, we've got time though, so I'll do it. Sorry about this, guys. I'm going to have to read it to you. What I would say is though, you should still read it again before next lesson because it's very useful for you guys to keep refreshing your memory. I'm going to try not to have to do this text not to have to do these questions as many times as we did Life of Pi. I don't want the trains to become the next Life of Pi, but let's see how we go. Before next Tuesday, sorry, not next Thursday, before next Tuesday, before the next language lesson. Okay, right, let me start reading then so that I can do this quickly. So, and now the journey was almost over. There is no more luxurious sensation than what may be described as the end of term feeling. I felt very content. After tomorrow, there would be no more trips to the dining car, no more of that black bread in consistency and flavour suggesting rancid peat, no more of that equally earthy tea, no more of a monk's existence, no more days entirely blank of action. It was true that I did not know what I was going to do, that I had nothing very specific to look forward to, but I knew what I was going to stop doing, and that for the moment was enough. I wandered along the train compartment, undressed and got into my bed. As I did so, I noticed for the first time that the number on my berth was 13. For a long time, I could not sleep, but eventually I drifted off. All of a sudden, there was a frightful jarring, followed by a crash. I sat up in my berth. From the rack above me, my heaviest suitcase was cannonaded down, catching me with fearful force on either kneecap. This is the end of the world, I thought, and in addition, they have broken both my legs. My little world was tilted drunkenly. The window showed me nothing except a few fields. It was 6 o'clock. I began to dress. I felt very much annoyed, but I climbed out of the carriage into a refreshingly spectacular world, and the annoyance passed. The Trans-Siberian Express train sprawled foolishly down the embankment. The mail van and the dining car, which had been in front, lay on their sides at the bottom. Behind them, the 5 sleeping cars, headed by my own, were disposed in attitudes which became less and less grotesque until you got to the last, which had remained primly on the rails. 50 yards down the line, the engine, which had parted company with the train, was dug in, snorting steam on top of the embankment. It had a defiant and naughty look. It was definitely conscious of indiscretion. It would be difficult to imagine a nicer sort of railway accident. No one was hurt, the weather was ideal, and the whole thing was done in just the right sort of theatrical manner, with lots of twisted steel and splintered woodwork and turf scarred deeply with demonic force. This was great fun, a comical and violent climax to an interlude in which comedy and violence had been altogether too lacking for my tastes. It was good to lie back in the long grass on a little hill and meditate upon that sprawling scrap heap. There she lay in the middle of the wide green plain, the fastest train, the Trans-Siberian Luxury Express. For more than a week, she had bullied us. She had knocked us about when we went to clean our teeth in the little bathroom. She had jogged our elbows when we wrote and when we read. She had made the print dance tiresomely before our eyes. Her windows might not open on account of the dust, and when closed, they proved a perpetual attraction to small sabotaging boys with stones. She had annoyed us in 100 little ways, by spilling tea in our laps, by running out of butter, by regulating our life. She had been our prison. We had not liked her. Now she was down and out. We left her lying there, a broken buckled toy, a thick black worm without a head, awkwardly twisting, a thing of no use. Source B, Fanny Kemble's letter. A normal sheet of writing paper is enough for love, but only a large sheet can contain my raptures about my railroad journey. And now I will give you an account of my excursion yesterday. A party of 16 persons was ushered into a courtyard where there stood a carriage of peculiar construction, prepared for our reception. It was a long-bodied vehicle with seats placed across it back to back. The one we were in had 6 of these benches and was a sort of uncovered carriage. The carriage was set in motion only by a push and rolled with us down a slope into a tunnel which forms the entrance to the railroad. Here we were introduced to the little train engine which was going to drag us along the rails. She, for they make these curious little fire horses all mares, consisted of a boiler, a stove, a small platform, a bench, and behind the bench a barrel containing enough water to prevent her being thirsty on our journey. She goes up on wheels, which are her feet, and are moved by bright steel legs called pistons, which are propelled by steam. The reins of this wonderful beast are a small steel handle, which applies or withdraws the steam from its legs or pistons so that a child might manage it. The coals, which are its oats, were under the bench. This snorting little animal, which I felt rather inclined to pat, was then harnessed to our carriage. Mr. Stevenson and I took our seats on the bench on the bench of the train engine, and we set off about 10 miles an hour. As the steam horse was unable to go up and down hill, the railroad was kept at a certain level, and it appeared sometimes to sink below the surface of the earth and sometimes to rise above it. It was most incredible. You can't imagine how strange it seemed to be journeying on thus, without any visible cause of progress other than the magical machine with its flying white breath and rhythmical, unvarying pace between these rocky walls. When I reflected that these great masses of stone had been cut asunder to allow our passage far below the surface of the earth, I felt as if no fairy tale was ever half so wonderful as what I saw. You cannot conceive what that sensation of cutting the air was. The motion is as smooth as possible. You could either have read or written, and as it was, I stood up and with my bonnet off, drank the air before me. When I closed my eyes, this sensation of flying was quite delightful and strange beyond description. Yet strange as it was, I had perfect sense of security and not the slightest fear as this brave little she-dragon of ours flew on. Okay, so what do we infer then? You could just write your answers in the chat to this. So in source A, what do we infer about Fleming's attitude when the train crashes? And then he says, it would be difficult to imagine a nicer sort of railway accident. So how does he feel about the train crashing and smashing down a mountain when he says this? He thinks that it's happy and nice. Yeah. I don't think that he feels disappointed, Sunitha. Could you tell me why you think he would feel disappointed? Good. He doesn't seem to care. He feels relieved. Good. He thinks that it's better than being on the train. Exactly. Yeah. Like the idea of it, like it's fun. He says that he hates the train. So he feels that he's got revenge for it. Very good. Yeah, I totally agree. He's full of whimsy and joy. Well done. He sees the crash as harmless and almost amusing. He does. Yeah, excellent. Well done. Okay, then number 2. In source B, what do we infer then here when Kemble says, no fairy tale was ever half so wonderful as what I saw? Tell you about her experience, excuse me. So what does she compare the train journey to? And what does this tell us about how she feels? It feels like a dream. Very good. Her experience was unimaginable. Yeah, she feels like the train was magical. Really good. Yeah, well done. When we think of the word, when you hear the word fairy tale, what does that connote in your mind? Like, what's the connotation of the word fairy tale to you guys? Magic, fantasy, made up, fictional, myth, magical, happy ending, made up story, dreams, something that's far from reality, whimsical. Very good. Yeah. Princessy, like maybe she does, yeah, maybe she feels like a princess, like on her carriage or in her carriage. That's a good way to think about it. Yeah. So obviously we associate the idea of fairy tales with being like in a dream world or like, yeah, having a happy ending or something. And when she says no fairy tale was ever half so wonderful, she's saying like her experience is like double a fairy tale. Fairy tales have connotations of magical fun, so she's suggesting that this was really amazing and fun. Exactly. Well done, everybody. Okay. Okay, now I want you guys to do this in one sentence only. How does Fleming's description of the train in the end of the passage, when he describes it as a broken, buckled toy, How does this make you feel about the crash? Just put one sentence. You can obviously pick out a literary device if you see one. You absolutely can do that. But why, like, what does it make you, the reader, feel, not what you understand about his feelings? Anybody got any ideas? It makes me feel quite amused. Is the noun toy makes it seem comical rather than dangerous. That's a very good one, Jawata. Yeah, that's, I would say, is a good, like, oh, it makes you feel sympathetic towards the train. I suppose so, yeah. Connotes ideas about it being heartbroken. The train was cheap. Maybe the train was not well made. The use of plosives make it sound unserious, comical, and reduces the impact of the grave situation. Very good, Fariza. Yeah, excellent. That's a really good idea. Yeah, it definitely makes it feel like it's useless. It's also kind of like the idea that it's not something serious, like a child when they play with a toy and then just like smash it up or chuck it away. Like none of it is really, like, it doesn't matter. It's not taken too seriously. It's just a toy, is kind of what he's saying here. The train was treated like a marginalized person. Yeah, Darren, it's true. You're not wrong. I mean, I'm not sure I feel like the train is not being treated quite as badly as marginalized people get treated, but yeah. Um, Fleming's description of the train makes us feel bad for it, as it helped them travel for such a long journey and then the passengers left it in the dust. This is very true. Yeah. It makes the reader feel as if the train was useless, as its description is emotionless, implying it doesn't matter. Well done. Good. Okay. Marginalized means like pushed to the sides. Like the margin of your page is like this part here. You look at my screen. Like the margin is the bit that the teacher writes in or that you write annotations in. So like to marginalize someone is like to push them to the sidelines. They're not the center piece of something. So like marginalized groups of people are often like minorities or whatever. Okay, number 4. Uh, Opposite thing here. Kemble calls the train a brave little she-dragon. What can we infer from this about how she viewed the new invention? There are some words here I want you to focus on. I want you to think about the idea of calling her brave and calling the train a she-dragon. Now, obviously, you guys know why she calls it a she-dragon. It's because machines were often referred to in the female form. But what do you think about, like, why does she call it a she dragon? She feels like it's a newly built warrior. Again, it's linking to the fairy tale. She refers to the train as a great ride. Yeah. Um, she admired the new invention, seeing it as powerful and courageous. Dragons are very powerful. It's also seen as something mystical, powerful, precious to her. Dragons are also thought of as strong. Yeah, she thinks it's strong. She sees it as powerful. Excellent, guys. This is some really good inferences here. It's almost one of a kind, and the horse is seen to be called brave, as it's the first training revolutionary. Yes. Maybe a bit more wicked. She sees it as intelligent, strong, and a useful machine, nearly bringing it to life. Excellent. Well done. Okay. Right. Okay. Now I want you guys to do this again. I'm just going to take off my Grammarly suggestions because I find it really annoying. It's going to reload. Okay. So I've got a table here below. And I'd like you to pick up the same thing as we did in the slides, basically. So like what can you infer from the contrasting quotes that I've got here? So she had been our prison. We had not liked her. The motion is as smooth as possible. It was good to lie back in the long grass on a little hill. So what does it suggest? I want you to match them up. So the train was uncomfortable and controlling. The ride was calm and enjoyable. Hold on. I've just realized I put this. This is so easy because I put them all in the right order, haven't I? Oh, sorry, guys. This is too easy for you guys. Okay, well, I'm going to skip over this because this exercise was too easy because I put it all together. For those of you that said it's A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, you're all right because I obviously made my table and then forgot to mix them up. Sorry. Um, Sorry, everyone. This means at least that we can go to exercise 4. I think this is the furthest that we've ever got in a worksheet. Can you believe it? Usually we end up going to usually we end up doing about 2 because I run out of time. Okay, right. What I would like you guys to do now then means you get to do some writing. Is can you write me 1 or 2 sentences about how the writers experience their trains differently? So I want you to use just one word from each of the sources. You can use any source that you, sorry, you can use any word from either source that you want, but I want you to compare which word, like I want you to compare the experiences because of the words that they use. So, okay, so if you want to use the words tedious versus adorable, monotony versus admiration, well done. Hold on, let me just open up my docs so that I can check that you guys have got this all right. I think it's fine. So if he says tedious versus adorable, what does that infer? So you've picked the words, but then you need to write the sentences. So okay, sorry, here on here some people say so. So we'll say the writer is content about the journey's end with the anaphora of no more. Very good. So we'll say frustrating, annoying, boring. Source B, calm, peaceful, and magical. Fleming feels frustrated and she feels thrilled, using the word thrilling. Excellent. Aaron says expressing their content and joyousness about the end of the train journey. Yeah. Okay. So then, guys, what you need to do is say, like, is write this as more of like an analytical sentence. So you could say, for example, I'm going to put one in the chat and then you guys can do it. So, for example, Fleming treats the experience with irony. Kemble views hers with awe and wonder. So it can be very simple like this. You guys have written even more than me. This is very impressive. So the author of source A states that the passengers didn't like the train because when it crashed, it was referred to as comical. In source B, the author uses the word thrilling to make the train look like a passage to heaven. Well done, Ankit. That's very nice. While Fleming seems to hate the train and refers to it as restrictive, or I think you need an actual word here from the text. You want to put it in quote marks. When he calls it and when he calls it a prison, while Kemble contrasts this with her calling her train ride a fairy tale, which shows that it is almost like a fantasy. The writer's experience on their trains are in contrast because in source A, we can infer that the journey as a whole was not very pleasant, as seen in the connotations of tedious. However, in source B, we know that the writer wants to imply that the journey was amazing and magical, seen through the word thrilling. That word connotes happiness and excitement, leading us to believe she enjoyed her time. Excellent, well done. The writer appears to be content because the journey is coming to an end. That's fine, yeah. Source A uses the vivid verb frustrating to imply his sense of annoyance at the train, while source B uses the magical imagery of fairy tale to convey and heighten the sense of imagination. Well done, everybody. That's great. Okay. I'm going to get you guys to do this. I want you guys to think about the emoji reactions because I know that you guys probably like to use emojis, or maybe you guys are too cool. Maybe it's like a real like boomer millennial thing to use emojis. I don't really know. I'm definitely much too old and uncool to like know what like emojis are. But I want you guys, I'm going to give you guys a sentence from the text, and I want you guys to, it doesn't matter what you write, because this is the last thing to do in the lesson. I want you to tell me which one of the emojis would you use here. So react to each experience with one emoji that matches the writer's attitude, and then tell me why you've picked it. So don't just put an emoji. I want you to tell me why you've picked that specific emoji. So the first one is this one. You guys can just copy the emoji if you want. So she had bullied us and now she was down and out. So some of you are saying either the first one or the second one. So like the angry face or the laughing face. Okay. Um, okay, so for those of you that are writing emojis, you need to say why. Okay, because karma is real, because the writer feels like they've got their revenge. I picked this because the train bullied them, which has connotations of anger. Yeah, very good, very impressive. Yeah, I uh a okay, yeah, karma because of the idea of revenge. All right, then let's do this last one. I think this is going to be the last thing that we do today. Okay, and so then I want you to tell me what's your reaction to Kemball's reaction to the speed. So here you go. So swifter than a bird flies, quite delightful. Which one would you pick for this one then? And tell me why you'd pick it. Okay, so a lot of you are saying that you'd pick the first one, so the like face with the stars, like the star eyes or whatever. Obviously, yeah, it's totally fine if you want to pick a different emoji to the one I've listed. You can pick any ones you want because she's amazed and shocked. Um, she's in awe. She's amazed by the train's speed because it's delightful, very good. Because it's how she feels, it's so impressive. Running emoji because it swiftly suggests that speed. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Because she's impressed. Okay. Right. Well done, guys. I actually think I know I skipped over a few, but I wanted to do the emojis one with you because I thought it was quite funny. Okay. Well done, guys. Obviously, please don't use emojis in your real tests or at school. I'm sure your teachers don't want to see your emojis. I just thought it was quite a quick way to kind of get you to infer things quite fast. Also, if you think about it, emojis are kind of like inferences because the way that you interpret an emoji or the way that you see an emoji might be a different way to someone else seeing an emoji. So that's also kind of like inferences, I feel. Just something to think about, the philosophical ideas around emojis. Okay, everybody, I'm going to stop there. Well done today. You did. I was actually very impressed, considering that a lot of you have never even seen emojis, have never seen inferences before or seen paper two before. This was a very impressive start. I'm very impressed by some of your analysis, so well done. Okay, everybody, have a lovely rest of your half term or enjoy the break between now and Thursday for the rest of your half term. I will see you all on Thursday evening for some English literature. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good evening. Bye. Bye-bye.